The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Elders of the assembly, we have a conundrum on our hands. With the women of Benjamin being destroyed, how shall we provide wives for the men who are left? The Benjamite survivors must have heirs, so that the tribe of Israel cannot be wiped out. We can't just give them our daughters since we've taken this oath, cursed be anyone who gives a wife to a Benjamite. But guess what? We have this annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh, which, just lies north of Bethel, east on the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem.
That's it! We'll tell the Benjamites, go and hide in the vineyards and watch. When the young women of Shiloh come out to join in the dancing, rush the vineyards, and each of you seize one of them to be your wife. Then return to the land of Benjamin. When their fathers or brothers complain to us, we'll say, come on, do us a favor. Do us the favor of helping them. Because we did not get wives for them during the war, you will not be guilty of breaking your oath because you did not give your daughters to them. And that's how we're going to do it. That way, we could be guilt-free and no one is cursed.
You've done it again.
Israel has fallen so far that they are almost indistinguishable from the Canaanites. We are kicking this new year off with a wrap-up of the book of Judges. Thank you all for tuning in, and let us know your thoughts, and as always, be blessed and enjoy.
All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. It is our first episode of 2022.
Man.
So hopefully you guys have had a great start to the new year. This should be January 7th. So hopefully this first week has gone pretty great for you guys. Yeah, man, we would definitely appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week. Hopefully you guys are staying healthy because the Omicron is rocking the world by storm. But yeah, and this year, like I said, me and Kaz got some big things planned. With God's help and with His will, we'll accomplish all of them, if not a good majority of them, and in ways to improve the podcast. I know I was getting tongue twisted there. And definitely, if you guys have any suggestions or anything else you think we should do or add, definitely let us know. Private message, comment under this video, email us. Just definitely let us know because we appreciate you guys' feedback, and we want to make the podcast better. And definitely continue to share with your family and friends, and let's just grow the following. So definitely appreciate that. And since it's the new year, I know everyone got their plans, and what's not, just know that God has the ultimate plan for us. I remember I started last year, man, I had some plans and things didn't go the way, like life itself didn't go the way as I planned it. But the crazy thing is at the end of it, things just worked out way better than I expected and in different areas. So it's you can't really complain. I saw this meme or this quote or something once online. I honestly can't remember if it was Facebook, Instagram or something. But it was saying that, we make plans and God laughs at them. And so it's definitely good to have your dreams, your ambitions, your goals, and things you're working for. But definitely in Jeremiah, God says he knows the plans He has for us, plans to prosper. So just keep that in mind as we're going throughout this year. I wish everyone the best. Don't be those people who make those New Year's resolutions and by the end of January, you've already broken all of them. So I mean, I personally don't even do New Year's resolutions anymore. I just set out a plan that I want to do for the year, and I actually just try to stick to it. And I try to start it from the end of last year. So I'm just rolling into the January. A lot of people, for example, say they want to stop drinking, but New Year's Eve they're out drinking. Like it's kind of hard to say you're not going to be drinking come 12 o'clock midnight. It's just kind of nonsensical if you ask me. But that's just how I operate. But definitely keep God first. No matter what you do this year, keep God first. God has shown you many times. He's shown me many times that he definitely has a plan for us. He has our best interests at heart. And all it takes is for us to trust him. And that's really where it goes haywire. When we lose trust in God and we start leaning on to our own understanding. I feel like I'm talking too much, cause you could bail me out of this trap. But
no, bro, you're cooking.
But I definitely feel like that's where it starts to go downhill. Because we want what we want so much, and then our wills become out of line with what God's will is. And that's when we see the conflict and the rift starts happening. Because we're saying, surely God wants this for me, so I'm going to obtain it by hook or by crook. And I'm just use Sarah and Abraham as an example. It might not be the best example, but they really wanted a son. And even though God promised them a son, in their mind, God was taking too long. So they say, by hook or by crook, we're going to get this son. And we kind of know how that Ishmael happened. And Isaac still happened, which was God's original plan. But look at all the conflict that just having Ishmael caused. But that was when a plan kind of deviated from God's plan. And we see that multiple times as we go throughout the Bible. So all in all, definitely put God first. I wish everyone the best in whatever you want to accomplish this year. May the year be filled with blessings, abundance, and most of all, make sure this year, in some quantifiable way, even though it's hard to quantify, that you put God first and build your connection with God. Because like in Matthew it says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Then all these things shall be added unto you. And to me, at the end of the day, what is all of this, as we see in Ecclesiastes, that we're chasing here on earth, but just a smoke in the wind?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Amen to that. Only thing I'd add to that is, if you're not doing it, make it your duty to actually read through the Bible. And I'm making a distinction between reading the Bible and reading through the Bible. Most of my life, I've followed devotions to some degree. I've read Psalms and Proverbs more times than I probably read anything in the word, because that's just an easy motivation, easy, quick wisdom. Yeah. Don't do this, do that. You know what I'm saying? But understand what's in the book. And the only way to do that is by reading. I personally just started, a few months ago, I started just reading 5 chapters a day and 10 chapters on the Sabbath at minimum. A couple of days I forgot to do it, or I just wasn't able to, or something. But to the best of your ability, read the word just to understand what's in the book and get a full understanding of God. And it's not going to happen with one over one read. I've not read the whole Bible yet. You know what I'm saying? This podcast has helped me a lot, and I'm excited now because I'm in a good rhythm, and I just want to learn more and learn more. You could look at it as a history book. You could look at it as a novel, as a spiritual devotion book. But at the end of the day, just read the word and learn more about God.
That's a great point. And I guess to add to his point too, sometimes you think about it like if it's just interesting, because I don't know how many people have ever talked to like an atheist or like I forget the next word I'm looking for, agnostic.
Agnostic, yeah.
But it's interesting how some of them, not all, but they know the Bible better than most Christians. Because it's just a strategy from like debating. Know your enemy's argument so that you can know how to combat it. My thing is like if you're a Christian and you don't even know what's in the Bible or just the general outlook of it, like how do you even know what you really believe? And that's just my opinion. Like if you say you're something, you should kind of like know where this identification comes from, know what this book stands for. Yes, I mean, and who was it? Paul. I think it's Paul who talked about this, but at some point, it's just not good enough to be like a baby Christian. At some point, you say you got to move on from milk onto like solid food. Like accepting Jesus as your savior, yes, that is great. That is ground one. That is amazing. Salvation is everything. But at a certain point, you should probably want to get to know your savior. And the best way to get to know him is through his word. So.
Amen to that. Because boy, oh boy, the thing about it is, if you, especially if you're ministering or if you're just speaking to somebody who's just difficult, because that happens a lot. I feel like it's more difficult people than people who aren't, you know what I'm saying? That aren't Christians. Like a lot of people just want to talk, bro. Some people can hit you with stuff straight out of context. And if you're not even familiar with this text, you read that might trip you out. Like, wait, they might be right, you know, because it's the first person who introducing you. Bro, when I go and I'm on my journey to make albums, you know this, bro. Like sometimes I cut off social media. Sometimes I stop listening to music because I don't want someone to influence me. And a lot of times, the first person who tells me something, I'm more inclined to believe them. Me personally, I realized that by myself. So if somebody reads you somewhere in Exodus or Deuteronomy when they talk about slaves or they talk about this theology or that, you know, and they take it out of context and you read that based on what they gave you, you might feel like they're right. And if their point is that God is unjust because X, Y, Z, you might feel inclined to believe that. So it's important for you to understand and have a firm knowledge of what's in the Bible. Read it as if you are a skeptic. Read this and see if this makes sense. It should make sense. And truthfully, you have to read it without your doctrinal biases, if that doctrinal is a word. You understand?
It's a word today.
Right. You need to read this without cultural biases. That's number one. You got to read this as if you are, as if you don't know nothing, like you've never heard nothing from any denomination. You understand what I'm saying? Read this and get an understanding for yourself. Because a lot of times even people who are on the side of Christianity, they misquote things and they repeat things that people have said to them. You know what I'm saying? So you have the power to learn this unbiased. You know, pray to the Lord for wisdom. And, you know, this year, above all things, work on your salvation and, you know, get to know your Creator.
Amen to that. All right. So I think we said in our 2 episodes ago, because last week was the Birth of Christ episode.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. No. Yep. Yes, it was. No, it was Michael.
Yeah, last week.
It was Michael.
No,
it was the.
Oh yeah. It was the Benjamin. It was the Benjamites. But 2 episodes before that was Christmas. Yeah.
It was Christmas. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yep.
But so yeah. Hope you guys did enjoy the Christmas episode and now the one last week. But we picked off and saying we were going to try to finish Judges last week. Let's do a recap. But the conversation was so good that we said, you know, we'll just save 21 and lump it in with the recap. So I guess rather quickly, or we'll see how this goes. We will discuss Judges 21, wrap up the book of Judges, and with a lovely recap, and we'll see where this goes. So you want to hit a recap for us how we got to this point? I actually need some water.
Yes. So we have the Levite and his concubine. They were traveling. You know, the Levite was trying to get his concubine back. You know, the family affairs going on there. So now they traveling back. I can't remember what city they were trying to go to, but they made it clear that they did not want to stop in any city that was not an Israelite clan. When they got there, when they got to the city, long story short, it was a city where Benjaminites inhabited, and they surrounded the house and they threatened him to rape him. And he ended up sacrificing his concubine. I'm saying sacrifice because he threw out there. I guess that pacified the crowd or whatever. They raped her and they killed her. Then he sent a message to all of Israel. He cut her up and sent a piece to all of the tribes of Israel saying, this is what has happened to me. What are y'all going to do? And the rest of the tribes of Israel, they were so upset, they waged war against the Benjamites. The war was a little shaky because the Benjamites had the upper hand for quite some time. And then afterwards, the Lord finally gave the Benjaminites or Benjamites, I can't remember how to pronounce it, over in the hands of the rest of the Israelites. And they, I want to say, took it a little far because they destroyed not only like 99% of the army, but they followed and they went into the towns of the Benjaminites and killed their women and children. I mean, killed their women and children and the inhabitants of the cities and burned everything to a crisp. And so now, if you read that, you would assume that all of the Benjaminites are completely destroyed. But in verse 21, in chapter 21, they still are talking about finding wives for these Benjaminites. And so I just want to start with the end of Judges 20 as a further recap. Judges 20, verse 46. On that day, 25,000 Benjamite swordsmen fell, all of them valiant fighters, but 600 of them turned and fled into the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, where they stayed for 4 months. The men of Israel went back to Benjamin and put all the towns to the sword, including animals and everything else there. All the towns they came across, they set on fire. So based on this bit of information, I'm led to believe that they destroyed everything, but there were still 400 men that went and hid and essentially escaped from being destroyed. So now we only have what's left of the Benjaminite clan is 400 men.
Mm-hmm. A tribe on
600 men. I'm sorry, 600 men. 600 men. Yep.
Yeah, 600 men.
Yep.
They almost down to on the verge of extinction.
Yep.
So we see in chapter 21, the men of Israel had taken an oath at Mizpah. And we know Mizpah is where a lot of oaths have been given historically.
Right, and that's back to verse chapter 20. That's where everybody met. That's where all the 10 tribes met, as well as the Levite, and they spoke about this. So that's where the oath started.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not one of us will give his daughter in marriage to a Benjamite. The people went to Bethel, where they had sat before God until evening, raising their voices and weeping bitterly. Lord God of Israel, they cried, why has this happened to Israel? Why should one tribe be missing from Israel today? And it's so... Okay, to me, it's like, why y'all... What?
I think that's like, let's say you hit me, right? And I hit you back. And I take it too far. And I go to you and I say, bro, why you make me block your eye, bro? Why you make me do that? You know what I mean? That's how I interpret it. Because they crying like, why the Benjamites gotta be completely destroyed? Why is this happening? As if they weren't the ones that destroyed the Benjamites.
That's what I'm saying. It happened because of your guys' excessive vengeance against the tribe of Benjamin. Yeah, get me wrong. Benjamin was messed up. But did they deserve to be extinct? On the verge of extinct? That's like, it's crazy. Like this.
See, but it like to me, and this is a little bit conflicting, just based on the whole verse 5, right? Mm-hmm. The Israelites ask, "Who from all?" Wait, we were at verse 5.
I stopped at verse 3.
Oh, never mind. I jump in the gun a little bit, but the point I'm making is like they should have actually cried. They should have cried this way before they started attacking Benjamin. You know, mm-hmm. They should have been saying, "Oh Lord," because if your idea, if your understanding was that we have to destroy this whole city, why y'all? What was the thought process before y'all went and actually did it? You know what I'm saying? Was it that y'all only realized that Benjamin was going to be extinct after y'all already did what y'all done, which is very possible. But I'm like, if y'all really cared about Benjamin, why weren't y'all thinking about this before? Or why didn't y'all plead on their behalf to the Lord? Like, you know, because y'all went straight to God. Who should go out first to fight? You know?
Exactly. And then I'm like, even at a certain point, they should have been like, okay, guys, I think they may have learned their lesson.
Yeah.
Maybe. Not 100% sure, but I think they may have learned the lesson. You guys wait till you were like all of the heated, passionate war off. You're like, oh, shoot. There's only 600 of them left. I wonder who was counting.
See, because my thing is, I even believe that they didn't know the 600 fled. Oh, they may have, right? But they say, after we go to war, we taking it another step and we destroying their town. So they treating the Benjamites as like, if they was the Canaanites, like how
exactly.
they, right? Mm-hmm. Like how God instructed them to do the Canaanites, which they failed to do. And that's why it's good for us to go over this recap in this episode, because we can see the contrast and the similarities between the way Israel are treating each other and the way they treated the Canaanites.
Exactly. So so verse 4, early the next day, the people built an altar and presented burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Verse 5, then the the Israelites asked, "Who from all the tribes of Israel has failed to assemble before God?" For they had taken a solemn oath that everyone who failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah was to be put to death. Now the Israelites grieved for the tribe of Benjamin, their fellow Israelites. Today one tribe is cut off from Israel, they said. How can we provide wives for those who are left? Since we have taken an oath by the Lord not to give them any of our daughters in marriage. And so what's interesting to me is that y'all is hold these oaths that God never even or like told y'all to make so sacred.
Mm-hmm.
But then all this is y'all problem. Y'all make this oath and bringing God into this oath that God ain't never honored to say we can't give them no daughters. Then y'all go and kill them. Mm-hmm. But now y'all feel bad since, oh shoot, we actually want to help them repopulate, but we made this oath that we still want to honor in all dignity.
You know how much oaths from God they just desecrating, you know what I mean? Like so much oaths from God that y'all should have been keeping, you know what I'm saying? But it's like the oaths, they initiate are the ones that you can see that they hold more valuable. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's funny because they so remorseful, right? But they were obviously very infuriated before they killed them. Reason I'm saying that is because look at the oaths, what they made. They say, yo, the first oath they say was, we're not going to give our daughters to Benjamin in marriage, right? To me, that implies that these people are going to need women and we're not giving it to them. You understand what I'm saying? Because y'all just start, this oath y'all just made when y'all assembled to go to war. And that, to me, to Nakhaz, that shows me intent to destroy at least all women. You know what I'm saying? That shows me that intent, right? That's number one. Number two, they were so upset that they were saying, whoever is not here in this meeting as we plan to go to war with Benjamin, we will kill them as well. Yeah. So Earl, if you in the clan of Judah, right? Most of Judah go in, but in this city specifically, you say, man, I ain't not. Because y'all, bro, it's 10-1. Well, it's 11-1 now. Right now, bro, it's 11 tribes to 1 already. Our city, we good. They looking at you and they saying, bro,
nope.
Oh, yeah, we can kill you. We can give you the same fate as Benjamin just because you ain't participating with us. That's how I know that these people were seriously furious at Benjamin. Like they were serious about killing Benjamin. I don't even think this was a waiver for them because they're making oaths about this. Let's make an oath. And when you make an oath, it's like, even if you have a change of heart, you say, I do this before God. So I can't go back on this oath, you know? And now they're remorseful. They're completely remorseful.
But the thing is, like, it's still like they ain't really that sorry about what they did. They just like more sorry about the outcome. Mm-hmm. And it's not even really that. They're just like, oh shoot, like since y'all survived, we need to figure out like what's gonna happen to y'all.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Cause I'm like, we ain't really like they made the burnt offering that they presented wasn't a burnt offering of like repentance. Mm-hmm. Like there was more so a fellowship, like you see in verse 4. I could be reading this completely wrong. And so I'm like, they still ain't really like sorry per se. They more like, okay, God, like, yeah, let's figure out what to do. Because I'm like, y'all really should be trying to renounce this foolish vow y'all made about not giving these people daughters into marry. Because now y'all about to even commit more sins to cover up the already foolish sins y'all already do.
Yeah, and now they have to kill the people of Jabash, so that they could, for lack of better words, kill two birds with one stone.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Let's get this. So, where was I? I'll just pick up from verse 7. How can we provide wives for those who are left, since we've taken an oath to the Lord not to give them any of our daughters? Then they asked, which one of the tribes of Israel failed to assemble before the Lord at Mizpah? They discovered that no one from Jabesh Gilead had come to the camp for the assembly. When they counted the people, they found that none of the people from Jabesh Gilead were there. So they sent out 12,000 fighting men with instructions to go to Jabesh Gilead and put to the sword those living there, including the men, including the women and children. This is what you are to do, they said. Kill every male and every woman who is not a virgin. They found among the people living in Jabesh Gilead of 400 young women who had never slept with a man, and they took them to the camp at Shiloh in Canaan. So I guess for anyone who may have missed that, they decimated Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, completely decimated them. About 600 men were left. They felt kind of bad, but not really, in my opinion. This is my headcanon now, so don't put this in the Bible. And I was like, oh, okay, we need to figure out what job. Oh, shoot. We don't feel that bad that we're going to break this foolish vow we made. So know what we're going to do? Who wasn't here when we made this vow? Because they didn't even know we made this vow to kill them. When you really think about it, y'all came up with this whole narrative amongst yourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
And now y'all going to say, okay, guess who wasn't there? Someone had not been here. Granted, this might not even been a problem if y'all, God forbid, just kill all of Benjamin. Or better yet, not even try to wipe out a whole tribe. I guess it said the 11 tribes of Israel don't sound as good as the 12.
Yeah. It just don't roll off the tongue.
It just don't roll the tongue as much. And
like
so
the
now
half tribe of Manasseh can't make up for.
They weird with that one. The whole tribe should just come across the river, in my humble opinion. And so now they find this one town that no one from the town came, made this treaty, and no one from the town was in the assembly at that time. Let's see, we got them. And y'all were so convincing, y'all planned. Granted, I still don't see them consulting God about this or nothing. So they sent 12,000 men. And this is how you really see they was operating this is like a Canaanite tribe. Remember, this is an Israelite tribe. They're doing this too. They sent these men there with instructions to kill the children and the women. Even in modern day warfare, you leave the women and children alone.
I think where that is, they say don't kill a child for the sins. Oh man. Hey, but I keep going. I could try to find the text.
So I'm like, think about it. So now you're saying that guess what? The only people living in this town are the virgins. Why? Because we need these virgins to cover up our sins. But the light bulb isn't going off that, we're just creating more sins in doing this to cover up our act. But I guess they're saying if no one lives to tell the tale, who's really going to care?
Bro, if you read Deuteronomy, sorry to cut you off, bro.
No, go for it.
If you read Deuteronomy and then go straight to Judges, like with Deuteronomy fresh in your mind, like plenty stuff they do in Judges, they like, wow, bro, like they literally spoke against that. Deuteronomy 24 verse 16, parents are not to be put to death for their children, nor children put to death for their parents. Each will die for their own sin.
You're just wiping everybody out.
I'm just wiping everybody out, but that's egregious. That's egregious.
So now we see in verse 13, then the whole assembly sent an offer of peace to the Benjamites at the rock of Rimmon. So the Benjamites returned at the time they were given the women of Jabesh Gilead who had been spared. But there were not enough for them all. Because remember, they say only like 400 women came. And there's like 600 Benjamites. So 200 people get the short end of the stick.
That sucks.
The people grieved for Benjamin because the Lord had made a gap in the tribes of Israel. The elders of the assembly said, with the woman of Benjamin destroyed, how shall we provide wives for the men who are left? The Benjamite survivors must have heirs, my bad. They said, so that the tribe of Israel will not be wiped out. We can't give them our daughters as wives, since Israel had taken this oath. Cursed be anyone who gives a wife to Benjamin. But look, there is an annual festival of the Lord in Shiloh, which lies north of Bethel, east of the road that goes from Bethel to Shechem, and south of Lebanah. So they instructed the Benjamites, saying, go and hide in the vineyards and watch. The young women from Shiloh come out to join the dance and rush from the vineyards. Each of you sees one of them to be your wife. Then return to the land of Benjamin. When their fathers and brothers complain to us, we will tell them, do us the favor of helping them, because we did not get wives for them during the war. You will not be guilty of breaking your oath because you did not give your daughters to them. So, I think, forgive me if my logic is a little flawed, right? By agreeing to this plan, you're agreeing to give your daughters away, even though you're telling the man, I'm not going to give you my daughter, but you can go and steal her.
Yes. Essentially. It's so much, bro. I don't know, man. Like, first of all, the 400 virgins, right? You just killed their parents, their siblings, everything else, right? And now you got this arranged marriage, right? I just don't see how any human being can live a fulfilling life with their spouse. And if that's the situation
circumstances.
the circumstances you getting married into. You know what I mean? That's number one.
I don't know how it was
Number
back in the olden days. Go for it.
Boy, whew, I can only speculate. But now, secondly, y'all basically kidnapping people, bro. Like, I know if human traffic is too harsh a word or a fitting word, but that's essentially what happened. And like, bro, that's rapey though. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's the leaders, it's the
Most
leaders
definitely.
of the nations who proposing this, bro. So it's like, all right, so now we can't give our daughters, you know what I mean, because of our oath. But what y'all as Benjamites could do, y'all could steal them, and we just ain't gonna do nothing. So technically, y'all steal it. You know what I mean? And we could be free from guilt because we didn't permit this to happen. You know, like it's a lot of this how you could tell, bro. Like when stuff like this happen, this how you could tell these people ain't operating with God in mind or operating under the instructions of God. Because it's like it's so messy, bro. It's so much you have to do this sin to do this sin to do this sin to fix the one sin that Judah committed earlier. It's like it's too much. It's like it's a tangled web they weave in continually just to fix this one problem.
Mm-hmm. And just taking themselves deeper. Like instead of going through this whole charade, they could have just, like I've been saying, just confess these foolish sins, bro. Repent. But what is it for God to make, bro? We see God been giving people babies at 100.
That's true.
This ain't nothing for him.
Yeah, I know, bro. Benjamin, this was very avoidable. This was so avoidable, bro. Like even after the Levite incident, all of this was just avoidable.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But that's what Israel has come to.
This is exactly what Israel has come to. So in verse 23, so this is what the Benjamites did. While the young women were dancing, each man caught one and carried her off to be his wife. They returned to their inheritance and rebuilt the towns and settled in them. At that time, the Israelites left that place and went to their home tribes and clans, each to his own inheritance. And in verse 25, in those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit.
And this is a perfect summary for this entire text, because we literally just finished talking about how we know this wasn't from God because they had to do so much and this and that and the third. And at the end of the day, they don't have no leader. And so this plan makes sense to them. Like this is a good plan to them. This the plan they land on and everybody sign off and agree on because they do not have any leadership. They have no king. They're not being led by God at the moment. And so now they left to lean on to their own understanding.
To me, it's even a more powerful way. Like I'm going to rephrase this last sentence. In those days, Israel forgot God was their king and did what they saw fit because they had a king.
Yeah.
They definitely had a king, but they just stopped recognizing him as their king, as their guide. Because this type of corruption with God as your king would not happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, I know like we be saying it this way because we know what it's leading towards, but we got to remember Israel was never really supposed to have a king. They just got so bad and caught up. God was like, okay, you know what? Y'all want a king, y'all gonna get a king. But God was supposed to ever be their king and their only leader. But they started to do what was fit in their own eyes because they started to forget that God was their king. As we can see here, I know we're about to run through the whole recap, but as we can see here, like Kazi pointed out, the leaders were suggesting this foolishness. The Israelite leaders, the ones who are supposed to be connected with God. But we see they ain't consulting God. They forget God as their king. And that's what is so important. And you see right here, the author, Judges keep on saying in those days, Israel had no king and everyone did it as they saw fit. But it is so striking that if you go back a couple like books ago, we see where God is supposed to be their king. He's supposed to be their guide. They're supposed to continue trusting him and following his plan. He is their leader. He led them from Egypt to Canaan, gave them all the victories to get to Canaan. If they had continued trusting him, they wouldn't have these Canaanite problems to begin with. But because y'all did what y'all wasn't supposed, like y'all didn't do what y'all was supposed to do, wipe out the Canaanites. We see by the end of Judges, y'all doing what y'all ain't supposed to be doing again. But this was exactly what y'all supposed to do at the beginning of the book, wiping out the Canaanites. But now at the end of the book, y'all wiping out the Israelites. And it's so funny how far we've come. But I feel like I'm supposed to be saying this at the end. But if we go back and rewind, Judges won.
Yep. And it's funny, you feel like you're supposed to be saying at the end, but the book start like the book, like it's like two outros. It started with an outro. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. It literally did. Judges 1 was like, oh yeah. Let me
Judges 1 was a continuation.
Joshua for y'all.
Yeah, right. And then Judges 2 was like, all right, this is the summary.
Summarize the whole book for you. Like if you don't want to read the book, just read Judges 2.
Yeah.
But like, how you want to do this? Like, I know we ain't going to go in depth because definitely y'all check out these previous episodes. I don't even know how much episodes we was in Judges. I could go back and check, but I don't know what up right now.
For sure. But we could mention what Judges 1 talk about, but we should start in Judges 2.
I definitely
and then possibly just go through the notable judges.
Yeah, because I mean I have a list of judges. I have a list of the judges, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So Judges 2. And we see like Judges 2 opens up with a monologue. We see the angel of the Lord said, I brought you out of Egypt and led you into the land. And I swore I gave to your ancestors. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. And you will not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I've also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares to you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called that place Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. And we see like the summary starts. So after Joshua dismissed the Israelites, they went to take possession of the land, each to their own inheritance. And the people served the Lord throughout their lifetime of Joshua and the elders of the elders who outlived him, and who had seen all the great things the Lord had done. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at the age of 110, and they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Heres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. After the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up, who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They forsook the Lord. They gave them in the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of Egypt. And see, this is a key line right there. They forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors who brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshiped the various gods of the people around them. They aroused the Lord's anger. Because they forsook him and served Baal and the other Ashtoreths in his anger against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of the raiders who plundered them. So he sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to assist. Whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn up to them. They were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges who saved them out of the hands of these raiders. Yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostitute themselves to other gods and worship them. They quickly turned from their ways of their ancestors who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with that judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to their ways, even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following the other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation has violated the covenant I have ordained for their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations Joshua left when he died. I will use them as a test to see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did. The Lord had allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua.
What's interesting about that is, I remember when we first read this, bro. when we did this episode, we were assuming that it was some far off generation after Joshua because they had completely forgotten, right? Mm-hmm. After going through the book, or even after when we get to Othniel, we would see that this was literally the generation after Joshua, like after Joshua and all his people, God, the very next generation just completely did the opposite of everything that Moses, God, Joshua, whoever name you, the leaders of Israel at the time, told them to do. They did the exact opposite. They did the very thing. It's like God said, yo, don't do this. Like, I really hate this. Like, don't do this. Like, it's a lot of crazy stuff that's going to happen. Like, do not do this. Like, the book, Deuteronomy, God, bro, like, so many times he's saying, yo, don't worship idols. Don't worship idols. Drive these people out. He showed them how to go to war. The very detailed instruction. And it's very precise, too. And as soon as they were left unsupervised, meaning as soon as Joshua died, they just completely forgot everything and did the very thing that God told them not to do.
Yep. It's just interesting. Okay, like let's see, like the first couple of judges, right? And it's interesting how they got like progressively worse.
Yep.
As like story-wise, you can argue. I mean, because I'm gonna set this premise. The judge was like the leader of Israel, and they also was like the defender from the other nations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just set that premise because I mean, like, we could talk about popularity and that kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's like, what was your purpose as a judge, and what were you fulfilling that purpose? That's how I kind of want to approach it. That's why I say, like,
and it's two purposes: one to be the leader of Israel, and one to be like the leader of an army or like to defend Israel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I'm like, when you look at it, Othniel was probably one of the best ones.
Yep.
You have like one of the shortest stories that we know of, but he's probably one of the best ones. Like, he did what he's supposed to do. He conquered and wiped out some like places in the name of God and for Israel.
Yep.
Like, we see, like, he went and he conquered, and so and a lot of peace. They had peace for 40 years under him. So he was like, yep, we good. All y'all nations coinciding. No one messing with us. We got this. We good.
Good.
Othniel was good. Nice short story. Yep. Ehud, we get a little bit more about Ehud. Ehud was interesting. He was a Benjamite and
a left-handed man.
A left-handed man. And it's just so funny how he was a Benjamite, and we see how just a couple minutes ago, we see how his fate ended. But what's kind of funny about like Ehud, right? So like, again, he was a Benjamite. And the Benjamite, if we go way back in like episode, I would think it's probably like episode around 16 or something like that. Could be wrong. Either way, Benjamin, it's probably like 20 something. But Benjamin was like, it means like right hand. That's when, Jacob, Israel.
Right. He renamed him.
Yeah. Give him this may, the mummy wanted one name. He's like, nope.
Ben on I.
Yeah. He's like, what's that? That's not happening. He's going to be Benjamin. Like, he's going to be my right hand. Right.
Yeah.
But it's so funny. So the child of Benjamin means right hand. But it's so funny. Most of the descendants were left-handed people, as we went through when we did the Ehud podcast. We figured that out. And we were trying to figure out why he's left-handed. And we see later down, like probably like 5 episodes ago, we see again, like the Benjamites were like left-handed people historically. So it's just interesting.
It's so interesting the golden nuggets that you find in the Bible, bro. Like Isaac's name was laughter because everybody just was laughing. Like anytime someone explained Isaac being born in the situation he's being born by two parents, everybody just laughed. So they name him Laughter. Now this he named his son against his wife's will, I'm assuming, right hand. But his clan is notorious for being left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
They point that out in the Bible. Yeah, his descendants.
Like left-handed. So it's like God used the person who, quote unquote, to Israel is using their wrong hand. No disrespect to any of my left-handed friends or listeners. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. That's actually an advantage. So
especially in sports.
Exactly. Exactly. He's going left. No one can stop him. Anyway, so God uses the guy. So in the eyes of the Israelites, God uses the man who uses his wrong hand to save and be a judge over like right-handed people. So it's just kind of little nuggets like that. But Ehud, we see this man went back and killed a king. Killed the king, and the land had peace under him for 80 years. Yeah. So, we don't get too much of his victories. And at the same time, it's like, does it matter? As a judge, your land had peace, 80 years, and we see people was doing well.
Yeah. Praise the Lord.
Shamgar, we don't even have about Shamgar, but we know he struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad to save Israel. So we know Shamgar did his thing. I mean, he might have just been all right judge. I'm gonna put him in the ambiguously good category because he's one of the judge.
Yeah, and they have a few judges who it's like ambiguous, so we just have to assume that it's good because the ones that did bad, we definitely know they did bad.
Definitely know.
And they were a snare to the Israelites. We know that. Shamgar, we don't even know how long he reigned.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
No, but
he might have even reigned concurrently with Deborah at some point. We don't really know.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
There's no real context. So now Deborah. Deborah's an interesting one. She's also a prophet. She was definitely prophesying things that did come true.
Yeah.
And to me was like how she had more faith over the
Barak, I think his name was.
Barak, the leader of the army. And how he was like a little hesitant. He was like, yeah, I'm only go if you go, yeah, that type of thing. And she's like, bro, what?
Yeah, man up, bro. Like
seriously, got yourself like a man.
Yeah, bro.
Virgil Wayne's like a man.
Right. Like what you mean, bro? I mean, like if that's the energy you come with, you can't get the honor that comes with winning. You
exactly.
know, since you want a woman to rule you or to lead, that's what happened. You know what I mean?
And then she definitely did prophesy for a woman to like get the victory in the end of the day. So we see who was Sisera.
Yes, Sisera was the army leader.
Yeah, he led. Like he flew away. Not flew away. He fled.
Yeah.
And he asked for some water, but he got some curd up milk.
Yeah.
I still mad that this man asked for water, and you give him like curded milk.
He should have known it was a setup. He should have known something was wrong, bro.
I started to be like, yeah, this ain't the place.
That woman must be trying to kill him by like choking. You know what I mean?
You sick.
She's trying to choke him.
Sick.
That didn't work.
I know they say beggars can't be choosers, right?
Right.
I asked for water, miss. Do you hear me saying I was running for my life? You giving me cheese?
That's a sick woman, bro. But I just gotta laugh because I don't mean like she really sick, but that was funny though. That's pretty interesting, I'd say.
Exactly. So Jael, she came and she got that hammer peg and ended Sisera.
Yep.
That's a good skit to it, you and Yana.
Yeah, that was a good. And my boy Wilfredo. Wait, what's that? No.
Wilfredo was Eglon. That was a good skit.
Yeah.
That was a good skit. Yo, shout out to Wilfredo. That was a good skit. That was definitely a good skit. Oh yeah, guys, definitely some we drop our skits separately on Wednesday evenings. Definitely check it out if you just want to hear a skit. And they're all cataloged, just to listen to the whole episode. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. Every Wednesday they drop anywhere between 5 and 8 o'clock on YouTube only because it doesn't make sense to usually see them on the podcast platforms like that. Yeah. Hey, here's a 2-minute clip. And Deborah also had a song where she speaks about the whole victory and was a very well documented song. So we was judging Deborah. We give Deborah. We introduced grades in a long time.
Right. She get an A.
So
Deborah was a fearless leader, I'd say.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? She was zealous for the Lord. She was poetic. Just kidding. But she even when the leader of the army, the person who should you would expect him to be very brave because you're the commander of the army. Even when they wavered, she doubled down. You understand what I'm saying? So I give her an A.
All right. So what you give Othniel and Ehud?
I give Othniel an A. I give Ehud an A as well. I'd give Deborah an A plus. Like she leaning more to she's a higher A in my opinion. Of course, we only doing this as a joke because we are at no liberty to judge anybody.
Exactly. This is pure fun, pure speculation. Right. I just say because now it's just,
and it's not based on their salvation, by the way.
Exactly.
It's based on their leadership.
Like for me, I'll give everyone so far like a decent A. Even Shamgar. Like Shamgar might get like an A minus just because of lack of story depth.
Can't give him an A. I can't side with you on that one. And that's only because, bro, like Shamgar make me feel like he was just an interim like fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't even know if he was a judge, to be honest, because when Deborah started, they say after Ehud died, she became the judge. You know what I'm saying? But in Shamgar, they was also saying like after Ehud, Shamgar led but he was a fighter, so I'd give him in terms of fighting. You know what I'm saying?
He did what he had to do.
Sure,
he killed 600 men. This man he did what he had to do.
Give him a B plus.
Could you drop him?
It's a very passing grade. I just didn't know what his responsibility was in totality. You know what I mean?
So we get to Gideon, the man God found in a pit.
The mighty warrior.
The mighty warrior. The mighty warrior didn't believe in himself.
No.
So Gideon had trust issues.
Yes.
And belief and self-confidence issues.
And he had PTSD because they was going through it for 7 years. They could barely eat in that land.
Mm-hmm. So Gideon was an interesting one. So we see how one, he get a little spicy at first. What do you mean the Lord be with me when, y'all did, you sent this and you rescued us from the Egyptians and you delivered us into the hand of our oppressors, and then God's like, hold on. Like, yo, I already told you, you got this. Essentially, he's like, anyway. But yeah, this will get into but pardon me, if the Lord is with us, why all this happened to us? Where all this wonders and where's all this wonders our ancestors told us about? Did not the Lord said he brings us out of Egypt, but the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hands of Midian. That's verse 13 in chapter 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the angel, Lord said to him, just go in strength and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? And he's like, pardon me, how can I save Israel?
Like who are you?
Weakness.
Like, who are you?
and
what you mean
in
I
my
can
family.
do it?
Yeah. Exactly. So then we see, he started to get some belief when he started to ask God so many tests, if you really doing this, let me, show me this sign, show me this next sign. God, show me this next sign. God even sent him to the Israelite camp at one point in time to go. If you don't trust me, just go listen to yourself. See what they're talking about. Which is kind of interesting because they're talking about you, who you and your man used to least of your family coming from the least tribe.
Yeah. He's scared. Even up, so God already talked, and God talking to him straight too. They chopped down the army just to be 300 men, and he was still nervous about it until God telling him, listen for yourself. You nervous, but they even more scared of you. You know what I mean? And that's when he had the complete zeal in this 300-man army.
And that's just something to go from 22,000 men. No, it was even more than 22,000 men.
I think it's 30,000.
32,000. Because at first 22,000 left and then 10,000 remained.
Mm-hmm.
And to go from 32,000 men down to 300, God was on your side. God was definitely on your side. Especially when all you had to do was really just break some pots and burn some torches.
And blow a trumpet. You know what I mean? Because it's he had the 300-man army, but they were responsible for all of the action. You understand what I'm saying? They chased them, and then the Ephraimites catch on, and these people catch on, and so it was a I don't know what the word is, but it was a collaborated effort. I'm guessing that's the term I'm looking for. But he kicked it off, and he got them scared enough, and God allowed the Amalekites to turn on each other. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, it's God who gave the enemies over into the hands of the Israelites. And that's a consistent theme. And we see where it was an easy battle they should have won. This is in the book of Joshua. And they definitely lost against AI because God wasn't with them.
Exactly. So now for Gideon's downfall, he said the Israelites, in Judges 8:22. The Israelites said to Gideon, rule over us, you and your son and your grandson, because you have saved us from Midian. But Gideon told him, I will not rule over you, nor will my son rule over you. The Lord will rule over you. Again, remember that same line of Judges end. Israel had no king, and they did what was right in their own eyes. We see in Judges 8, but they was essentially telling Gideon, we want you to be our king. And it's just say, y'all don't need that. The Lord will rule over us. Again, the Lord is supposed to be the king. The Lord is supposed to be the one ruling them. The Lord is supposed to be the one guiding them and instructing them. But even here in Judges 8, we see they forget the Lord is the king. They are so enamored by the works of man and what man doing, not knowing that everything Gideon accomplished came from God.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, do have one request, that each of you give me an airing from your share of the plunder. And they, so they answered, we will give it to them. So they spread a garment, each man threw a ring from his bundle to it. The weight of the gold rings, he asked for came to 1,700 shekels. And counting the ornaments and pendants and the purple garments worn by the kings of Midian, or the chains that were on their camel's neck, Gideon made all that gold into an ephod and placed it in Ophrah and his town, and all Israel prostituted themselves by worshiping there. And it became a snare to Gideon and his family. So even after Gideon, with the help of God, conquered, laid waste, we see at the end, he was like, yeah, I don't want to be a king, but I'm going to create, pardon me, I'm going to create this thing where you guys can come down and worship it. Like, so that was Gideon's downfall. And the funny thing is, he didn't want to be a king, but he named his son, essentially saying, you are a king.
Son of the king.
Yeah.
Like, Gideon, I got a gamma, C minus.
Yeah, I said Gideon, I get a C.
Yeah, sorry, Gideon. You complete half the mission, bro. You lucky I don't give you a 50%. You know what I mean? But the thing about it is, it's one thing to rid. Okay, so you rid the town of the oppressors, right? But then you put up a snare which would lead them to being oppressed as well. So you gave them an antidote, and then you gave them a sickness at the same time. You know what I mean? So I know you might just cancel out yourself. I know.
And it's so interesting too, because it's like for someone who was so close to, quote unquote, so close to God, and God showed you personally many things which you can't dispute. Like, and God was very patient with you. God said, go to battle. Oh Lord, let the grass be wet and the fleece be dry. Done. Pardon me, my Lord, if it's not too much, let the fleece be wet and the grass be dry. Done. Like, God pretty patient with God, but like, but what more do you need?
Yeah, God was very patient with him. Like, very patient with him. And God didn't show the same patience to Manoah. You understand? When Manoah was asking for this and continue asking him questions, you know?
Which is very important too, because again, okay, so anyway, let's get this. So now we see after Gideon, who we had?
Abimelech.
Abimelech.
Was he a judge? You know, say.
You know, it's like, is he really? He was more like a
king of Shechem.
He more like a vagabond. Like you have for narrative purposes, but definitely God ain't appoint you.
Right. But see, because my thing is after Abimelech, when we get to the next judge, they say like after the time of Abimelech, blah, blah, blah was rose up. You understand what I'm saying? So like, I want to know if you was like the interim judge. Because remember, like in Judges 2, they say, you know, the judges was there. The town was good until the person died. And then they backtrack. So he might actually really just not be a judge, whereas the Bible didn't say he was a judge. But this was after Gideon had died. This was a part of when the quote unquote Israel did evil in the eyes of the Lord. This was during this time period. You know, I don't think they say that during Abimelech's time, but you could see how it was turmoil happening, so that's just kind of the in between Gideon and the next judge, what was happening.
Yeah, Abimelech was just all wrong. He was if he was a judge, he failed.
Yeah, I failed.
Because he was okay, so if we're doing the judges, like, what did he do? He essentially wanted to be a king. He was killing his own people.
Yep. Start off with his brothers.
Exactly. And then you ain't killing no Philistines. Like, what good came from Abimelech was oppressing his own people, bro. He was bad. And
he just wouldn't stop. He just wouldn't stop until a millstone
crack him in the skull.
Yep.
And then he has so much pride, he asks his armor bearer to kill him. No, Abimelech gets an F.
Yeah, that's F.
Nothing good came from Abimelech.
That sucks, bro. Like, what did you do, bro? Like,
nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
So then we have Tola. We didn't spend too much time on Tola, but he led Israel 23 years and then died. And then we had Jair. He had 32 sons who rode 30 donkeys. He had 30 sons who rode 30 donkeys. They controlled 30 towns in Gilead, which to this day are called Havoth Jair. When Jair died, he was buried at Kimon. But he
I
led
putting them
Israel
with
22
Shamgar.
years. Huh?
I putting them with Shamgar. Whatever I give Shamgar, I think B plus. I can give them because I don't know if they did well or not, but we do know that the Bible does not say that Israel did evil while under their reign or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I can't really rate them. Yeah, like he up to some funny business, like how Gideon was at the end of his time. But it's not like, because I mean, even though we don't get that context, it seems like JR started off because he leaked 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
Was he essentially saw like his sons were set up like mini like prime ministers or something? Like he have 30 sons who rode their own donkeys, who control their own towns, like something else about JR that we don't have the full story.
Mm-hmm.
Now your friend Jephthah,
my friend, my good boy,
your good old buddy, old pal.
Jephthah. So now we essentially in this part of the book is where the judges have completely shifted from good to good and bad. So when we get to Gideon, we get good with the bad. You understand what I'm saying?
Gideon was okay.
Yeah.
Now,
so
Jephthah, I think Jephthah is just bad, personally.
No, see, because it's like, you're all right. So, and that's why I'm glad you made the distinction of the role the judges were supposed to play. They're supposed to lead Israel, but then they are supposed to fight the enemies of Israel, right? So that's two roles in one. Jephthah fought. You understand what I'm saying? So he did do that. But the leading of Israel, that's where he took a big L. And the same thing with Gideon. You understand what I'm saying? Now, the thing about Jephthah is we know that he knew something about God. To what degree, we don't know, because he hung with scoundrels. We don't really know his spiritual life. You understand what I'm saying? But we know that the decisions he made was not spirit-led. But he could talk about God, and he's accurate. So we know he knew something about God. You know?
And see, too, to me, Jephthah is like, God never appointed Jephthah. Jephthah was like a political appointment.
Yep.
That's like a good, like that's a main distinction there too. So Jephthah, while he took on the role of a judge, it wasn't appointed by God.
Mm-hmm. This was like the best they could do in terms of fighters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, I mean, I guess I can hold on to this in the next point later. But so Jephthah, his biggest thing, his biggest flaw was when, as we could read from the context, God already secured him the victory. Even though there was a political appointment, God was still on his side. Because we see the man knew of God, but it was a warped perception of God. He knew the Israelite God was better than the Canaanite gods, but he still treated him as a Canaanite God. Because now we see Jephthah said, all right, God, if you give me this victory, I'll sacrifice the first thing that come out of my house. Mm-hmm. Definitely check out the Jephthah episode, because I don't want to rehash all of that here. But how many ways you thought this vow would have turned out? Like, what's coming out of your house? Cows, horses? Like what? You didn't like your wife? You didn't like your children? Like your servants? Like what you thought was going to happen when you come back from victory? The first thing that comes out of your house, you're going to sacrifice. Like it just was a very foolish vow to make and to keep.
And you can see where in Deuteronomy, well, not even Deuteronomy, in Judges, when God said, see, because like Judges 2, it's the end of the book, but it's sometime at the beginning of the book too, because God is saying, I am going to keep these people here to be snares to you, right? Mm-hmm. So we get that from Judges 2 and Judges 2. But then in that same chapter, they talked about how they turned away and worshiped those things. You understand what I'm saying? So they give you both. They give you before and after in a way. And so obviously sometime before, the Lord had spoken to Israel and let them know, you guys have failed to remove. Oh, so in Judges 1, we didn't go over Judges 1, but Judges 1, they give an account of, I don't know if this is all of what happened, but they gave an account of most of the, they gave an account of the tribes who failed to drive out. So they might say, Simeon, this is just an example. Simeon, they drove out most of them, but they failed to do all. And they say Joseph or whoever, you know what I'm saying? And so now we get here, and we can see specifically where the text in Judges 2 verse 3, when it says that the idols will become a snare to you, we can see literally where it has become a snare to Israel, specifically Jephthah. Because now You just don't know the difference between what is done as a pagan idol form of worship and what is done as a offering to the Most High God.
Definitely. Definitely. So long story short, definitely check out episode 61 for Jephthah, but he ended up sacrificing his daughter, which was disturbing. Even when you read it, it's still like disturbing. Like, he sacrificed his daughter. And it's just sad that this guy was supposed to be the leader, couldn't differentiate between the two gods, as in the characteristics of God. So it's like, you know of God, but you don't know God for yourself. Because he was very eloquent in his letter to the king, describing how Israel went all the way from Egypt to how they get to this point, telling the king, like, how would you claim this land if our God gave it to you? Like, don't you keep what your God gives you? So how you could tell us to give back what our God gave us?
Yep.
So
And then he
so,
put that,
go for it.
and then he put that God to the test. Shemosh versus the Most High God. What you could do? Let's do it.
Exactly. But then still feeling the nuances to really say, like, how your gods are different. So, yeah, Jeff, he gets a D.
Yeah, I can't even pay. I'll give him a D.
He gets a D.
At least you fight. I mean, you do something, I guess.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
boy, see, at least Gideon, we knew Gideon had a relationship with God in some degree because he respect God, even though he still chose to do his own will. On paper, he was saying, yeah, I ain't gonna be your king. You know what I mean? But when it come to him, he was just like, I still could do things in my own order. You know what I mean?
So now the next main one is Samson.
Yeah.
We had 4 episodes on Samson, so you definitely check it out. But we know Samson was supposed to be set aside to God from birth. Never no race was to ever touch his head. He was not to drink any fermented drinks, eat any unclean foods, touch any unclean foods, all that kind of stuff. He was supposed to be a Nazarite. Go back and read what the Nazarite vows were. Or definitely check out the previous episodes about that. But yeah, so we know Samson grew up and got persuaded by the Philistine beauty.
Yeah.
And his purpose was supposed to be like, wage war against the Philistines. He's supposed to be the Israel savior. And we know he was blessed with supernatural strength. He might have even known it, but he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. Like, and like Kazi pointed out too, like this is like the first judge where God was like, okay, I'm gonna make you from the womb. Let's do something different.
Yeah.
We gonna make this one from the womb. We're gonna grow you up to serve this purpose. We ain't just gonna point you in your old age or nothing like that. We're gonna grow you for this purpose. We see even that he was led astray. So in a way to get him to even start waging war with the Philistines, God had to lead him to a Philistine woman to even start waging the war. But again, Samson, we see all of his victories came with personal losses that it shouldn't have been. When you at first, when we first started seeing you killing Philistines, it was to get some robes back because they pressured your wife.
Yep.
Then you go back to try to get your wife. You realize she done given away. You wage war again. They kill her. Your vengeance just going loose. So now you ain't got your wife. You ain't got your family. Cool. Now they want to tie you up. You go back and kill them, saying, yeah, I ain't done with y'all. I simply do with y'all. Y'all done with me. I've made donkeys to y'all, heaps on heaps, whatever Samson was saying.
Yeah.
So then, enough, but you had some time of peace. Then you go on back in bed with these same people who clearly done pulled one over your eyes a few times before. You go back with them. You go back in their camp. They plot to kill you at night. You say, okay, cool, I just gone, run away and just take the gate, drop off the hill. Then you fall in love with one again. I ain't even talk to them like that, but you fall in love with one again. And now is your downfall again. You end up getting so comfortable. You lie to her 3 times. And for some strange reason, you wake up in the same predicament that you told her that you would lose your strength in. And you were still so entangled that it was just wool over your eyes. Like, surely I can't lose my strength. Then you actually break your covenant with God. Actually cut your hair. You told the secret about cutting your hair. It was done. You woke up in predicament when you lost your strength. And then the time when you killed the most Philistines, what was supposed to be your purpose to save Israel and actually defeat the Philistines, you killed the most of them as you had to commit suicide to take them out. And I know you say like Samson was a failure as a judge. He was one of the worst judges. I personally think so. When you look at context, like you failed at your job as a judge. You ain't lead Israel with no spirituality.
Yeah.
It sounded like you was in Philistia more than you was in Israel. And you just like, you was killing them out of personal vengeance on your personal vendettas off of actually like defending God's integrity. And every time you talk to God, well, the one time you really talked to, every time you talk to God, it was like
you needed something.
You needed something like, God, you're going to let me die of thirst. It was more of like a condescending way, like, yeah, okay, just do it. Like, let me die of thirst. And then the very end, I was like, okay, Lord, let me just die with the Philistines. Like, geez, my life is being crap.
Yeah, I just don't know what to make of Samson, because they did say he served for 20 years, right? And if we think about Jair and the other people who don't have no context, right? We are led to assume that it was a chill reign, because we don't hear about them falling off per se. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at just the facts surrounding him, like the stuff that we do know, he didn't seem to have enemies, you know. He just seemed out of temper. Understand what I'm saying? That's like, imagine me. All right, let's imagine the Bahamas is going to war with Zamunda, right? This is a fictional place from a movie. We go to war with Zamunda, right? But instead of me being hostile against them, I chilling with them and just trying to date all the girls. And me dating them girls is not a part of a scheme. Like, oh, you remember, in Numbers, Balak and Balaam, they was like, all right, get the women to entice the people of Israel with their idols and stuff like that. That, like, it would appear that you're doing that, but that's not what you're doing, bro. This is sincerely what you want. You want these Philistine women. You know what I'm saying? And it's only when the stuff goes south that you fighting them. But this isn't on behalf of God. This isn't on behalf of your country. You know what I'm saying? This is your personal vendetta. This is your temper. You know, so I don't really know what to make of Samson. I don't feel like Samson did what he was supposed to do at all. And then after that, bro, we don't see, because it's like, when certain of the early judges, while they reigned, bro, we could see where Israel improved in some type of way. But Samson follows the prophecy or the summary in Judges 2, where it says the place get worse and worse after the judges. You know, what were you about to say though?
No, I was going to say too, because like under like the other judges, we see where they was actually like free while the judge was alive. Under Samson reign, we see that they was never like truly, like they were still oppressed, even up until the end. Like they were still oppressed. So it's like he just was like more so like, y'all ain't gonna be like killing us, but like y'all still like rule over us kind of type thing. Which is like, so to me, you still kind of fail at your job because your people still oppressed. Like there's people still being oppressed.
I agree, bro. I agree. I get Samson an F. I mean, it's an entertaining story, but in terms of the mission you was on, bro, from birth, I think you do a good job at all, you know.
As like one thing, like I want to point out too, like, yeah, we gave them grades. It's just like a fun grading thing, right? But like if you go back through each episode, we didn't give any of them like faults per se, because we said we could find ourselves in each of these judges. Like, just in case like just someone first episode they're listening to. Like Samson had his flaws. Got caught up with the same sin over and over again. Satan's got us with the same sin over and over again, even if you don't want to admit it. Gideon didn't have that much faith in God. How much times we ask God to show us multiple signs for different circumstances, and some of the most craziest things, like, oh yeah, God, like if this ain't, this what you want me to do, show me this. You see it, like, it's a coincidence, man. God, show me something else. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but stuff like that, we just brush off. But when we read in the Bible, like, oh yeah, Gideon had that faith. But God did the same thing for us, show us multiple times, and we still get it wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, God, you got to be playing. So again, like we making light of these situations. Definitely go back and check the episodes, but I don't want to take away the seriousness of it. Like we're not putting them at, because like they're all human beings, but in their job is where they fell. But even us, me and Kaz, like we still fall daily. Like God, Satan still catches us slipping every now and again. Like I ain't acting like I holier than thou, because I know I ain't. I know I got my sins, and I know I got to pay and pray and repent for them.
Yeah, see, because my purpose was not to talk about these people's salvation. You understand what I'm saying? Because
Exactly.
this is something quantifiable, bro. What you did as a army leader, commander, what you did as a leader in terms of in terms of cleaning the city from idols and stuff like that. These are things that you are quantifiable. And then at the same time, what we're saying, it is really just a reiteration of what Judges 2 already spoke about. These judges failed. You understand what I'm saying, for the most part? And the judges who did fail, they failed, and they were snares or hindrances to the other judges. And the other judges, bro, like when Moses went up on the mountain and Aaron, who would have been in charge, say, hey, let's go make an idol. Bro, these people just need a leader, bro. They need something to follow. You understand what I'm saying? And that's the fact of the matter. First of all, we should always look at God to be our king. You understand what I'm saying? To be our leader. And truthfully, the true test is to know what we do when nobody else is around. You understand what I'm saying? When it's just you and God, or when you feel like you're not going to get caught. That's the true test. You know what I'm saying? Anybody could be obedient with the face of consequence right in front of them, you know? And so when Moses was away, you see their true desires, what they really wanted. And Aaron fed into that. Aaron knew better, and he was a snare to them. And so when God picked these leaders, I am assuming they might have been the most spiritual or the most fitting for the job, but they obviously were not perfect. And we can see that. But it's a difference between being not perfect and leading people astray. You understand what I'm saying? Because even the good judges, the Deborahs, the Othniels, I still don't look at them as perfect. And I'm not grading them based on their salvation. I don't know if they're going to heaven or not. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, just because they were imperfect, just because they had imperfections, it didn't prohibit them from doing the task, that job that God assigned them to do. You know what I'm saying? We all sinful, we all fallible beings, but that don't mean I have to lead you or anybody who's listening to this to worship idols, especially the one thing that God detests. Imagine you in a union, right? You in a marriage, imagine you in a partnership, imagine you in anything that requires trust, right? And you share with someone, bro, the thing I really hate is, let's say for you, it would be dishonesty. I really hate dishonesty. Like, to my core, I hate dishonesty, right? And the person who you share that with, they deliberately are dishonest. Imagine that, because that's the dilemma of that God is saying. Like, God lists a lot of commands and decrees, you know, but the one thing he always keep coming back to is the idol worship. It's the idol worship, the idol worship, the idol worship. And that's the one thing they keep poking at. God say, yo, destroy all of these people because these people worship idols. And then when it started the idols, bro, you can end up doing everything under the book in the name of these idols. But they disregarded that, and they keep poking at the idol, keep poking at the idol. But God is so righteous that to spark the fight, that they deserve all of the enslavement, you know, all of the cruelties that was given to them when they cried unto the Lord. One thing is consistent. The Lord heard their cry and rose up a judge. Time after time after time after time after time. But it get to a point where these people stop crying. You understand what I'm saying? When we get to Samson, that's one thing that we pointed out. We didn't even see where they say we cry for a judge. And then notice how the book ends. After Samson, we don't even hear about no more judge. So my thing is, if you all do wrong and God put you all in oppression, you all need a savior, right? Y'all cry out for someone to save you all, and God is righteous enough to hear you all cry. But if y'all getting punished and y'all don't even cry out for this, and y'all don't even show remorse, or y'all don't even want it to be fixed, what y'all expect to happen? That's iniquity. This ain't even sin no more, bro. We fully aware, and we coexisting with our punishment. As a matter of fact, when God rise up a judge to save y'all from the womb, this is a homemade judge. He rather chill with the punishment too. You understand what I'm saying? This the situation. This is what God had to work with. And so the way the book ends is so fitting, bro. It's so fitting. And you summed it up. You summed it up beautifully, bro. In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as they saw fit. But they always had a king, bro. They always had a king. But they forgot who their king was. Or they chose for him not to be their king.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And so this book, this is a heavy book. Judges is a heavy book, bro. The book start light. And you notice we ain't even really had a lot of laughy episodes where we just laughing. You know, the book's serious, bro. It ain't not funny. Like Samson might have been a laughable moment because it deal with romance and stuff. This would everybody deal with. But after Samson, it just get more morbid, more dark. Certain things I don't even want to talk about no more. You know what I mean? Like I just glad this done. But I am thankful for God is so good. After Judges, you know what book we going to?
Ruth.
Oh, that's a breath of fresh air, no pun intended. I'm like, oh, thank God. Whoa, I wouldn't have been able to take another Judges after this book. If it was, because you know, Joshua and Judges, they similar because it's like war and traveling and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have been able to take another one, bro.
It's like I need a break before we get to Samuel.
I need a break, bro. I need a break. Understand what I'm saying? But overall, the book of Judges, it helps us to understand historically the journey that the Israelites are traveling on now. And one thing that should be blatantly clear, Israel has no king. That is a problem. And despite the fact that they are not praying and crying out to God for a king, you can rest assured that God already know this is a problem and he already working on the solution. The book of Judges seems to have ended without a redemptive quality. It started with the Israelites being reprimanded by God for falling victim to the snares of their Canaanite co-inhabitants. By following the religion of the land, they abandoned God as their ruler. But somewhere along the line, there was a woman who did the opposite. She abandoned the religion of her land to follow God as her ruler. But we'll talk more about that as we begin the book of Ruth on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.